The night was heavy with smoke and strange lights. In the center of the alien city stood the slave market, a place where misery was sold like treasure. Cages lined the walls, filled with beings from a dozen worlds, their voices rising in fear, anger, or silence. Merchants shouted, offering bargains in cruel tones, and guards with glowing weapons walked between the rows. It was a place where hope died quickly. A single human walked through this market, his steps slow, his eyes sharp. He had seen war, he had seen death, but the sight here felt worse. Chains around thin wrists, collars pressing against alien throats, faces tired and broken. He wondered why he had even come, maybe curiosity, maybe guilt, maybe fate itself. Then he saw her. In the corner of the market, in a cage no bigger than a box, sat a girl with silver hair that fell across her face. Her skin glowed faintly, not like human skin, but soft lavender touched with starlight. Her eyes, large and bright, carried the weight of despair, yet still held a spark. Around her neck was a heavy collar, chained to the bars, pulling her down like an animal. When the human passed, her eyes lifted, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. She pressed her trembling hands against the bars and whispered, "Please, human, buy me as your slave." The words struck him harder than any weapon. He froze, staring at her, unsure if he had heard correctly. A dozen questions ran through his mind. Why would she beg for this? Why not ask for freedom? Why not cry for mercy? But she said it again, her voice breaking. "Please, take me away. Even as your slave, just do not leave me here." The merchant laughed when he saw the human hesitate. You like her, don't you?" the merchant said with a cruel smile. "She is worthless, too weak for work. No one wants her, but for the right price, she is yours." The alien crowd nearby laughed too, mocking both the girl and the human. To them, it was entertainment, a joke. The human felt anger burn inside him. This was no joke, this was no bargain. This was cruelty dressed as trade. Yet the girl's eyes locked onto his, wide and desperate. There was no trick in them, no greed, only a plea for survival. He stepped closer, his voice low. "Why do you want me to buy you?" Her fingers gripped the bars tighter. "If no one buys me tonight, I will be taken away. They will kill me. I would rather belong to one human than die chained like a dog." Her words shook him, and for the first time in a long while, he felt fear, not for himself, but for her. She was young, fragile, yet there was something in her voice that carried truth. The human's heart pounded as he looked at her again. Every instinct told him this was dangerous, foolish, even insane. But every part of his soul told him it was right. He clenched his fists, knowing that in this market, his choice could change everything. The merchant leaned in, his grin wide. "So, human, what will it be? Walk away, or claim her as yours?" The air seemed to thicken around him. The girl's voice whispered one last time, soft and trembling. "Please, I beg you." The human knew that whatever he decided in this moment would not only decide her fate, but his own. The market lights burned brighter, the crowd's laughter echoed, and the chains rattled with every heartbeat. And the story of one human and one alien girl truly began. The night pressed heavy on the human's shoulders as he stood in front of the cage. The alien girl's words echoed inside his head, louder than the laughter of the crowd, louder than the merchant's cruel taunts. "Please, human, buy me as your slave." It was not only a request, it was a cry for life, a cry for survival. The human leaned closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "You do not even know me," he whispered, his eyes fixed on her trembling hands gripping the bars. "Why trust a stranger? Why me?" Her violet eyes filled with tears, but her voice was steady. "I have watched many pass. None looked at me the way you did. Most saw chains. You saw a person, and that is enough." Her words pierced deeper than steel. He wanted to turn away, to escape the weight pressing on his chest, but her gaze held him like iron. The merchant slammed the bars, making the girl flinch. "Stop wasting my time. Human, pay or leave," the merchant barked. He leaned back with a cruel smirk, whispering to a guard, "If no one takes her, the pits will. Tomorrow she dies anyway." The girl's face paled, her lips shaking as she heard those words. Her body pressed against the cage, as if trying to reach him through the bars. Her voice cracked, desperate, raw. Please, I would rather belong to one man than be torn apart like an animal. Please save me. The human's jaw tightened. He could feel the stares of the aliens around him, mocking, judging, laughing at the weakness of both slave and buyer. But in her eyes, he saw no trick, no play, only truth. He remembered the faces of the broken on battlefields, soldiers begging for one last chance, one last breath. This girl's face was the same. He whispered back, his voice trembling with anger. If I take you, your life will still be chains, do you understand? She nodded, her hair falling across her bruised cheeks. I understand, but chains with hope are better than chains with death. Silence hung heavy for a moment, then laughter cut it apart. An alien stepped forward from the crowd, his voice sharp. Human, you are a fool. Buying her will curse you. Her kind brings only trouble. Walk away and save yourself. Others joined in, voices rising like a storm, mocking, warning, tempting him to abandon her. But he did not move. Instead, he reached into his coat, pulling out a pouch of credits, the last of his earnings from a long journey. His hand shook as he tossed it at the merchant's feet. Take it, he said, his voice hard. She belongs to me now. The crowd erupted in noise, some cheering, some laughing, some spitting curses. The merchant grinned wide, scooping the credits with greedy hands. Foolish human, but your loss is my gain, he said, unlocking the cage with a hiss of old metal. The girl stumbled out, the chain still pulling at her neck, her knees weak from days without food. She looked up at him, her lips trembling. You really chose me. He nodded once. No words left, only fire in his chest. As he reached for her hand, the chain rattled, heavy and cruel, a reminder that her freedom was not yet real. Still, her fingers wrapped around his, small and cold, but alive. The merchant chuckled, leaning close, his breath foul. Careful, human, that one will drag you into shadows darker than you can imagine. Do not come crying when her curse follows you. The human said nothing, guiding the girl away from the laughter, away from the lights of the market. But deep in his heart, he knew this was only the beginning. Behind them, a pair of hooded figures slipped into the shadows, following at a distance. Their eyes glowed faintly, their voices a whisper carried by the wind. The human has taken her. He has no idea who she truly is. Another voice replied coldly. Then we will take them both when the time is right. The human led the girl through narrow alleys, the city's neon glow reflecting on wet stone. He felt the weight of eyes on his back, but kept walking. She leaned close, her voice a faint whisper. Thank you, but you must know, saving me will bring you danger greater than you imagine. Her words filled the night, mixing with the echoes of the chains still around her neck. And though he had saved her from the cage, he realized with unease that he had also stepped into a storm he did not yet understand. The human led the girl away from the glowing markets and into the dim streets. The laughter and shouts of the merchants faded behind them, but the sound of her chains followed, echoing with every step. She walked close, her head lowered, her silver hair covering most of her face. Every now and then she glanced up at him with those wide violet eyes, as if still unsure if he was real. The city around them was alive with neon and shadows, aliens of every kind moving through the night. None cared for the sight of a human leading a chained alien girl, yet the human felt the sting of every stare. He tightened his grip on the small chain in his hand, not to hold her, but to remind himself of what he had just done. He had bought a life. He had claimed her in front of the crowd, and now the weight of that choice pressed on him heavier than any battle armor. The girl's voice broke the silence, soft and careful. You regret already, she said, though her tone was not angry, only sad. The human shook his head, his jaw tight. I do not regret saving you. I regret the world that forced you to beg like that. Her steps slowed, her gaze fixed on the wet stones beneath her feet. You do not understand yet, human, she whispered. Buying me has tied you to my fate, and my fate is cursed. He stopped walking, turning to face her, his eyes narrowing. What do you mean cursed? What truth are you hiding from me? She hesitated, her fingers trembling as they touched the iron collar around her neck. You will know soon enough, but I cannot speak it here. Walls have ears, shadows have eyes. Her words sent a chill down his spine, and for the first time he realized that she had been watching the alleys, searching, fearing something unseen. A distant sound broke the moment. Footsteps, quiet but steady, following. The human's instincts sharpened, the kind honed by years of survival. He pulled her into a side street, pressing his back to the wall, his hand ready on the hidden blade at his side. He whispered, "Stay silent," and she nodded, her breath shallow. Two hooded figures moved past the mouth of the alley, their glowing eyes scanning the street, their voices like whispers of cold wind. He took her. The human dares. We must wait. We must strike when the chains lead him beyond the walls. Then they were gone, fading into the night. The girl pressed closer to him, trembling. "They will not stop now," she said, her voice shaking. "You have put yourself in their sight. Once they see the chain in your hand, they will never leave you alone." The human looked at her, frustration and confusion boiling together. "You knew this would happen, yet you begged me to take you. Why?" Tears glistened in her eyes, but she did not look away. "Because I had no choice. Death was waiting for me in that cage. But with you, at least there is a chance that someone strong, someone human, could keep me alive." He stared at her, the weight of her words pressing on him harder than the chains she carried. Humans were known in the galaxy for their defiance, for their stubbornness, for never surrendering even when all odds stood against them. And now, this girl, alien yet fragile, had placed her hope in that very reputation. The human closed his eyes for a moment, remembering the battlefield cries, the last breaths of soldiers who had trusted him with their lives. He had failed many, but this one, this fragile soul, he would not fail. When he opened his eyes again, his voice was steady. "I will protect you. No matter what comes, I chose to buy you, and I will not abandon you." Her lips parted in shock, as if she had not expected such a promise. Her eyes softened, filled with a light he had not seen before. But still, the chain rattled as she moved closer, her voice trembling. "Then you must be ready, human, for they will come soon. And when they do, they will not stop until either you or I are destroyed." The night grew colder, the streets darker, and though he had chosen her, the human realized he had also chosen war. A war that had begun not with a weapon, but with a plea whispered from behind the bars of a cage. The city never slept. Neon lights burned across the towers while shadows stretched long through the alleys. The human led the alien girl deeper into the narrow streets, his hand still holding the chain that clinked with every step. Each sound felt louder than the beating of his heart, louder than the buzz of the lights, louder than the distant hum of alien engines. The girl stayed close, her silver hair brushing his arm as if she feared even the air might pull her away. They moved quickly, but the human knew they were not alone. The feeling of eyes burning into his back never left. He had lived too long in battlefields to mistake it. Someone was following, waiting, hunting. He pulled her suddenly into the cover of a broken wall. The stone cracked with old marks of war. Her eyes widened, but she did not resist. The human pressed a finger to his lips, motioning for silence. Together they listened, the street outside empty for a breath. Then the sound came. Footsteps, soft, steady, too careful to be casual. The girl gripped the chain around her neck, her hands shaking. "They are here," she whispered, her voice barely carried. "The ones who never stop, the ones who sold me, they do not forgive what is theirs." The human's jaw tightened. He had expected danger, but her words carried a truth that chilled him. This was no simple rescue. This was no simple trade. By taking her, he had placed himself directly against powers that ruled this city, maybe even more. The footsteps stopped. Silence filled the street like a blade waiting to fall. The human drew his hidden blade, its edge catching the faint light. He whispered to her, "Stay behind me, no matter what." She nodded, her eyes wide with fear and something else, trust. From the dark corners of the street, shadows moved, 2, 3, then more. Hooded figures stepped forward, their glowing eyes sharp as knives. Chains rattled in their hands. Weapons shimmered with cruel energy. One of them hissed, "The human thinks he can steal what belongs to us. Foolish creature. Return the girl, and perhaps we will let you crawl away." The girl flinched, pressing closer to him. Her voice trembled. "Do not listen. If I go back, I die, worse than death." The human lifted his blade, his voice calm but cold. "She is not yours anymore." Laughter echoed from the figures. cruel and hollow. Not yours either. Human, she is cursed blood, chained blood. She brings death to whoever touches her. The words struck like poison, but he did not move, his stance firm, his grip steady. He had heard enough lies in war to know when truth hid behind them. The first figure rushed forward, chains swinging, glowing with energy meant to cut flesh. The human moved fast, blocking with steel, sparks burst in the night. The girl gasped as the fight began, her hands tightening on the collar as if the weight of it grew heavier with each strike. The second figure lunged, and the human turned, his blade slicing low, driving the attacker back. But more came, surrounding them, pressing him to the edge. He fought with everything in him, every strike precise, every movement controlled. Yet he knew they wanted not only him, they wanted her. One figure reached for the chain around her neck, his clawed hand grasping it tight. She screamed, falling to her knees, the chain cutting into her skin. The human roared, cutting down the attacker with a single strike, his blade glowing with heat from the force. He pulled her back up, his voice fierce, "Stay with me." Blood stained the stones, shadows twisted with the fight, and still the hooded ones did not stop. But something changed. The girl's hands began to glow faintly, a soft light from her skin spreading through the chain. Her eyes widened in fear, as if she had not meant it to happen. The glow turned brighter, filling the alley, forcing the attackers to recoil, their hoods falling back to reveal twisted alien faces marked with scars of war. The human turned, stunned. "What is this?" he asked, his voice heavy with shock. The girl shook her head, tears streaming. "I told you. I am cursed. This power is the reason they hunt me, the reason they chained me, and now you see it too." The attackers hissed, shielding themselves from the glow. One shouted, "Kill the human. Take the girl. Her blood must not escape again." The human stood taller, his blade lifted. Her glow wrapped around them both, and for the first time, he did not see a slave. He did not see a burden. He saw someone fighting to survive, someone worth every risk. He shouted back into the night, his voice cutting through the chaos. "You will not take her, not while I breathe." And in that moment, under the broken lights and burning shadows, the human and the girl stood together, not master and slave, but something new, something stronger. And the fight for freedom had truly begun. The alley smelled of smoke and blood, the shadows still echoing with the clash of chains and blades. The human stood breathing hard, his blade dripping, his eyes locked on the girl beside him. Her hands still glowed faintly, a trembling light that made her look less like a prisoner and more like a being of power. She pressed her palms against the chain around her neck as if trying to hide the glow, her face pale, her eyes filled with fear. They stumbled into another street, leaving the broken bodies behind. The city around them carried on as if nothing had happened. Merchants shouted, lights flickered, ships passed overhead. But the human new eyes were watching, ears were listening, and the danger had not ended. He pulled her into a quiet storage hall, the doors heavy, the air thick with dust. There he turned on her, his voice sharp. "What are you hiding from me? What curse do they speak of?" She froze, her lips parting but no words leaving. Finally, she sank to the floor, her chains rattling against the cold stone. Her voice came out broken but clear. "I was not born a slave. I was born to a house of power, a house now destroyed." The human stared, his chest tightening. Her eyes met his, shimmering with both shame and pride. "My family ruled once, not a kingdom of men, but a strong house of my people. We carried a gift, a light inside our blood, but others feared it, feared what we could become." Her fingers shook as she raised them, the glow faint but steady. "This light is mine, but it is also my curse, for those who fear it would rather see me chained, broken, or dead." The human crouched in front of her, his eyes never leaving hers. "You are no slave," he whispered. "You are hunted because of what you are." Tears slipped down her cheeks, her voice shaking. "They killed my mother, my father, my brothers, and still they were not satisfied. I was taken, sold, dragged across markets until I became nothing more than property. Yet I am the last of my blood, the last of my house." The weight of her confession hung heavy in the air. The human felt anger burn inside him, sharper than any blade. He had seen tyranny, he had seen cruelty, but this To chain someone for what they carried in their blood, for what they could become, it twisted his stomach with rage. She lowered her head, whispering, "I begged you to buy me because I saw no other hope. If I died in that cage, my family's line would die with me, their light lost forever. But if you took me, even as your slave, at least I could live another day." Her words struck him deep. He remembered her trembling voice in the cage, the way she begged with more than fear. She had begged with a spark of will, the will to survive against all odds. He placed his hand gently on her shoulder, his voice steady. "You are not my slave. You are my responsibility now. If they hunt you, they hunt me too, and I will not let them win." Her eyes widened, shocked by his words. "No one has ever said that," she whispered. "No one has ever chosen me for more than chains." For the first time, her lips curved into something close to a smile, fragile and trembling, but real. Still, the glow from her hands dimmed, leaving only the weight of silence between them. Suddenly, a noise outside shook the hall, boots striking the ground, voices calling. The human tensed, pulling her to her feet. "They are already here," he muttered. She clutched his arm, her eyes wide again. "They will not stop. They will chase us to the end of this world. You must leave me before it is too late." He looked at her, his voice iron. "I will never leave you. Not now, not ever." The doors rattled as shadows moved beyond them. The sound of weapons charging filled the air. The girl pressed close, her voice a whisper in his ear. "Then you must know the full truth. If I fall into their hands, they will not only kill me, they will use my blood to awaken an army that will destroy everything in its path." Her confession sent a chill deep into his bones. He realized her plea in the cage had been more than survival. It had been the cry of someone carrying the weight of an entire galaxy. And now, by choosing her, he had placed that weight onto his own shoulders. The doors cracked under force, shadows pouring in. The human raised his blade. The girl's glow began to rise once more. And in that moment, the truth stood clear. This was no longer a rescue, no longer chance. This was destiny, and neither chains nor blood would break it. The heavy doors shook again, each impact louder, the hinges screaming against the force. Dust fell from the beams above, and the alien girl clutched the chain at her neck, her glow trembling through her hands. The human stood in front of her, blade drawn, his stance steady though his heart raced. He had faced war, he had faced armies, but this was different. He was no soldier in a unit, no commander with reinforcements. He was one man guarding one fragile life. The doors cracked wide, and shadows poured inside like a flood. Hooded figures stepped into the hall, their eyes burning bright, their weapons drawn. Their voices hissed together like one endless whisper. "Give us the girl, human. She is not yours to keep. Her blood belongs to us. Her power belongs to us." The girl pressed against the wall, her voice breaking. "They will not stop. They will tear this place apart." The human raised his blade, his voice sharp. "Then let them try." The first strike came swift, a chain glowing with energy lashed toward him. He dodged, the sparks burning the air, and countered with a cut that drove the attacker back. Another rushed from the side, claws reaching for the girl, but the human moved faster, blocking, his blade ringing with steel. The fight was chaos, shadows twisting, chains whipping, the hall filled with the sound of battle. The girl's glow grew brighter, spreading across her skin like light through glass. Her hands shook as if she struggled to control it, but every burst forced the hooded ones to recoil. Still, they pressed on, shouting, "She is ours. Her curse is not for you, human." The human fought with fury, each strike heavy, each movement precise. He had nothing but his blade and his will, but in his chest burned a fire stronger than theirs. He was not fighting for gold, not fighting for glory. He was fighting for her. Every swing was a vow. Every block was a promise. She would not be taken. One attacker broke through, striking him across the shoulder. Pain flared hot, but he did not fall. He turned, cutting the figure down with a single brutal strike, his blood mixing with the dust. The girl cried out, her glow bursting brighter, a wave of light knocking the attackers back. Her voice cracked, "Stop, please stop." For a heartbeat, silence fell. The hooded ones hesitated, staring at her with both fear and hunger. Their leader stepped forward, his hood falling back to reveal a face scarred by burns and war. He hissed, "You are the last of your blood, girl. Without you the light ends. With you we can raise it into a weapon." The human stood between them, his voice cold. "You will not touch her." The leader sneered, his eyes narrowing on the human. "You cannot protect her forever. Your kind dies as easily as any other. You think you are saviors, but you are only fragile flesh." The human's jaw tightened, his blade lifted once more. "I have seen flesh break chains before," he said, his voice steady as iron. The hall shook with their next assault, a storm of chains and strikes. The human blocked, cut, moved like a shadow, his blood dripping, but still he stood. The girl's glow spread across the walls, filling the room with a radiance that made the attackers scream in rage. Her tears fell, her voice trembling as she cried out, "You fight because of me, because I begged you, and now you bleed for me." The human turned his head just enough for her to hear. "I bleed so you live, not because you are a slave, but because you are worth saving." The words struck her deeper than the chains ever had. The glow within her surged, brighter, fiercer, filling the hall until every shadow bent back. The attackers hissed, retreating step by step, their leader shouting curses. "This is not the end. Human, you cannot stop what her blood brings. We will return, and you will drown in her curse." With that, they fled into the night, leaving the hall broken, the stones cracked with the force of battle. The human fell to one knee, his blade heavy, his breath ragged. The girl rushed to him, her hands glowing softly as she touched his wound, the light stitching skin, her voice shaking. "You should have left me. You should not have chosen me." He looked up at her, pain in his eyes but fire still burning. "I did choose you, and I will choose you again, no matter how many come." Her lips trembled, no words able to form, only tears falling. For the first time since her capture, she was not only surviving, she was beginning to believe she might be more than her chains. And outside, the night carried whispers of war, for the human's choice had not only saved one girl, it had lit a fire that would spread across the stars. The hall lay in ruins, dust and smoke hanging heavy in the air. The human leaned against the broken wall, his blade resting at his side, his shoulder bleeding though he tried to hide the pain. The alien girl knelt beside him, her hands glowing faintly as she pressed against his wound. Her light closed the worst of the cuts, but she was shaking, her tears falling freely. "You fight for me again and again," she whispered, her voice trembling. "But I am only a curse to you." The human lifted his head, his eyes tired yet steady. "You are no curse, you are someone who deserves to live free." Her breath caught, her violet eyes wide as if no one had ever spoken such words to her. She touched the chain around her neck, the iron links rattling softly. "These chains will never let me be free. No matter where I go, they will always find me. They will always call me slave." The human's gaze hardened, his hand rising to grip the chain. "No," he said, his voice low but fierce. "Chains break, always." With one sharp motion he pulled, the collar resisting, cutting into her skin. He gritted his teeth, straining, and at last the iron cracked, snapping apart with a sound that echoed through the hall. The girl gasped as the weight fell away, her hand touching her bare neck, her eyes filling with tears again. You broke them," she whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. The human nodded, his chest heaving. "You are not mine, not theirs, you are yours alone now." She shook her head, falling against him, her hands clutching his torn coat. "No one has ever freed me. No one has ever chosen me for who I am. Not for chains, not for power, but for me." Her words broke into sobs, yet her glow returned, brighter than before, wrapping around them both in warmth. Outside, the city was alive with whispers, rumors spreading of a human who bought a slave only to free her. Some laughed, some cursed, some feared what it meant. But among the broken streets and hidden alleys, hope flickered in the eyes of others who wore chains. The human rose slowly, his strength returning bit by bit. He looked at the girl, her silver hair shining in the faint glow of her skin, her face no longer bowed in despair, but lifted with fragile strength. He said, "They will come again. They will never stop hunting you." She nodded, her tears drying, her voice steadier. "Then let them come, for now I am not alone." Together they stepped into the night, leaving the ruined hall behind. The girl no longer walked in chains but beside him, free, though danger still shadowed every step. The human felt the weight of choice still heavy, but also a fire that burned brighter than fear. The galaxy would not forget this night. Not the desperate plea of a chained girl, not the choice of a human who refused to walk away. Their bond was forged not by blood or by law, but by courage and by mercy. And in the silence between stars, stories would grow of the night one human answered a plea and changed the fate of more than one life. The girl looked at him once more, her voice soft yet strong. You broke my chains, but you also broke the curse inside my heart. From this day, I am not a slave. I am something more, and I will walk beside you. The human gave a faint smile, rare and real. Then we will face whatever comes, together. And under the neon glow of the alien city, a human and an alien girl walked into the unknown. Not master and slave, not protector and burden, but two souls bound by choice, ready to defy a galaxy that had already written their end. For in every chain broken, in every fight survived, humanity had always proved one truth. When humans choose to protect, they never let go.